The string lights twinkled above the garden as laughter and conversation filled the warm summer evening. It was Maya's parents' 30th anniversary celebration, and everyone who mattered was there. Family, friends, the people who had watched us grow from college sweethearts into what I thought was an unbreakable couple. I had been planning this moment for 3 months. The ring had cost me 6 months of savings, but Maya deserved perfection. We'd been together for 4 years, and every sign pointed to yes. She dropped hints about wedding venues, saved Pinterest boards I'd accidentally glimpsed, even joked about what our kids might look like. My hands trembled as I stood up, the small velvet box burning a hole in my pocket. Maya's cousin tapped a glass, and the crowd quieted. This was it. Maya, I began, my voice surprisingly steady despite my racing heart. 4 years ago, you walked into my life and changed everything. You made me want to be better, to build something meaningful, to create a future worth living. She smiled, but something flickered in her eyes. Was it surprise? Panic? I pushed the thought away and continued, lowering myself onto one knee. The crowd gasped with delight. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth. Maya Thompson, will you marry me? I opened the box, revealing the ring I'd chosen so carefully. A sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds, her favorite stone. In the vintage setting she'd once admired in a shop window. The silence stretched too long. Then she laughed. It wasn't a nervous giggle or a joyful cry. It was a sharp, incredulous laugh that cut through the evening air like glass shattering. Are you serious right now? Maya said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Jake, I'm 25 years old. 25. I'm not wasting my 20s on marriage and babies and suburban mediocrity. The garden had gone completely silent. I could feel every eye on us, could sense the collective holding of breath. Maya, I don't understand. Of course you don't, she interrupted. And there was something cruel in her tone I'd never heard before. Jake, look at me. Really look at me. I'm too young for this. Too ambitious. Too good for a simple life with a simple guy who thinks a nice dinner and a ring solves everything. Each word was a knife. My knee was still on the ground. The ring still extended like an offering to a god who had found it unworthy. I have plans, she continued, addressing the crowd now as much as me. I got accepted to that MBA program in New York. Did I mention that? I'm moving next month. I thought we were just having fun, Jake. I thought you understood this wasn't forever. Her mother stepped forward. Maya, sweetheart. No, Mom. Everyone needs to stop pushing this fairy tale narrative. I'm not some princess waiting for her prince. I'm building a career. I'm going to see the world. I'm going to be someone. And I'm sorry, but Jake, she looked down at me with something like pity. You're just not part of that vision. I stood up slowly, my legs somehow remembering how to work. The ring box snapped shut with a soft click that seemed deafening. Around us, people looked away, embarrassed, uncomfortable. Her father's face was red with anger. At me or at her, I couldn't tell. I'm sorry you feel that way, I managed to say, my voice hollow. I hope you find whatever you're looking for. I walked out of that garden with whatever dignity I could salvage, leaving behind not just a relationship but the life I'd imagined, the future I'd built in my mind brick by brick. Behind me, I could hear the whispers starting, her mother's voice raised in anger, the party disintegrating into chaos. I didn't look back. That night, I learned that sometimes the person you love most is the one who can hurt you deepest. And sometimes rock bottom is exactly where you need to be to finally start climbing. The first month after that night was a blur of humiliation and pain. The video had gone viral. Someone had been filming the anniversary party, and my rejection had been immortalized for the entertainment of millions. Guy gets brutally rejected had 15 million views before I finally stopped checking. My phone buzzed constantly with messages ranging from pitying to mocking. Old friends from college reached out with awkward condolences. Strangers sent me advice, insults, or worst of all, their own rejection stories. I deleted social media entirely and threw myself into the only thing I had left. Work. I was a mid-level software engineer at a decent company, but I'd been coasting, comfortable with good enough. Not anymore. Maya's words echoed in my head. Simple guy, simple life. If that's what I was, I'd prove I could be something more. Not for her, but for myself. I started arriving at the office at 6 a.m. and leaving at 8 p.m. I took on projects others avoided, learned new programming languages on weekends, and volunteered for the impossible deadlines. My manager, Sarah, noticed. "Jake, you're going to burn out." She warned me after I'd pulled my third all-nighter that month. "I'm fine," I lied. But I wasn't fine. I was driven by something darker than ambition. I was driven by the need to prove I wasn't the person Maya had described on that stage. 6 months later, I'd been promoted to senior engineer. A year after that, I was leading a team. I started a side project, an app that used AI to help small businesses optimize their inventory. It gained traction slowly, then suddenly, and within 18 months, I had offers from investors. But success wasn't just about work. My buddy Marcus dragged me to therapy after finding me alone in my apartment on a Saturday night, surrounded by code and empty coffee cups. "Dude, you're successful now, but you're miserable," he said. "You can't code your way out of heartbreak." He was right. Dr. Patricia Chun became my anchor, helping me understand that Maya's rejection wasn't about my worth. It was about her fears, her timing, her own journey. Slowly, painfully, I learned to separate my value from her opinion of me. I joined a running club and discovered I loved the mindfulness of long-distance running. I rekindled old friendships I'd neglected. I traveled alone to Japan and found peace in the temples of Kyoto. I learned to cook properly and hosted dinner parties where I actually enjoyed the company instead of just enduring it. 2 years after the proposal, I looked in the mirror and saw someone different. Not harder or colder, but stronger, more complete. The humiliation had become a distant ache rather than a fresh wound. That's when I met Lily. She was a UX designer at a tech conference in San Francisco. I'd been invited to speak about my app's success story, and she'd been in the audience. Afterward, she approached me with insightful questions about user behavior patterns, and we ended up talking through the entire networking reception. Lily was different from Maya in every way. She was thoughtful where Maya had been impulsive, kind where Maya had been sharp. She laughed at my jokes but also challenged my ideas. She had her own ambitions but made space for others in her vision of the future. We took things slowly. I was cautious now, protective of the peace I'd built. But Lily was patient, understanding when I needed space and present when I needed company. She knew about the proposal, everyone did, but she never made me feel like damaged goods or a project to fix. "You're not defined by your worst moment," she told me one evening as we watched the sunset from her apartment. "None of us are." A year into our relationship, I realized something profound. I wasn't just over Maya. I was grateful for how things had turned out. The rejection had forced me to become someone I was proud of, and it had led me to someone who valued me for who I actually was, not who she wanted me to be. When I launched my company's series of funding rounds successfully, closing $3 million, Lily was there celebrating with me. When my app won an innovation award, she was the first person I called. She wasn't just along for the ride. She was building her own success story, and we were choosing to build our futures side by side. Life, I was learning, had a strange way of working out. Not the way you planned, but sometimes if you did the work and stayed open in a way that was even better. The coffee shop in downtown Seattle was one of those trendy places with exposed brick, local art on the walls, and baristas who took their craft seriously. I'd suggested it for a casual Saturday morning meeting with a potential client, somewhere neutral and relaxed. Lily was with me, working on her laptop at our table while I waited for the client to arrive. She looked up and smiled, that warm expression that still made my heart skip even after 2 years together. "You're nervous," she observed. "It's a big contract," I admitted. "If we land this, we can expand to the Portland market." "You'll land it," she said with confidence. "You always do." I was about to respond when I saw her. Maya walked through the door, and time seemed to stutter. She looked different, thinner, her hair shorter, her style more polished but somehow less vibrant. She was scrolling on her phone, distracted, and didn't notice me as she joined the line. My stomach dropped. In 2.5 years, We'd successfully avoided each other despite living in the same city. I'd heard through mutual friends that she'd come back from New York after a year and a half, that her MBA had led to a consulting job at a prestigious firm. But hearing about someone and seeing them are entirely different things. Lily followed my gaze and understood immediately. Is that her? Yeah, I said quietly. Do you want to leave? I considered it. But why should I? I wasn't the same person who'd walked out of that garden. I'd built a life I was proud of. I'd built myself into someone I was proud of. No, I decided. It's fine. I'm fine. Maya reached the front of the line and placed her order. As she turned to wait, her eyes swept across the room and landed on me. I saw the recognition hit her, saw the color drain slightly from her face. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she walked over. Jake, she said, her voice tentative. Hi, I didn't expect. How are you? I'm good, I said and meant it. Really good. Maya, this is my girlfriend, Lily. Lily extended her hand with a polite smile. Nice to meet you. Maya shook it, and I saw her taking everything in. Lily's confident posture, the expensive laptop, the easy intimacy between us. Her eyes flicked to my left hand, where I wore a simple watch I'd bought to celebrate my company's first major milestone. I heard about your app, Maya said, turning back to me. It's doing really well. Congratulations. Thank you. How's consulting? Something flickered across her face. It's fine. Busy. You know how it is. She paused, then added, Actually, I've been meaning to reach out. I wanted to apologize for how I handled things at the party. That wasn't fair to you. The barista called her name, but she didn't move to get her drink. It was a long time ago, I said evenly. We were different people. You seem really happy, she said, and there was something wistful in her voice. I am, I confirmed, and Lily reached over to squeeze my hand under the table. Maya's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it with something like dread. I should go. It was good seeing you, Jake. Really? She nodded at Lily. Nice meeting you. We watched her collect her coffee and leave, her shoulders slightly hunched, her earlier confidence seemingly evaporated. That was awkward, Lily said after Maya disappeared from view. Yeah, I agreed, but I felt lighter somehow, like a chapter had finally, truly closed. Seeing Maya hadn't reopened old wounds. Instead, it had shown me how far I'd come, how different my life was now, how much I'd grown. You okay? Lily asked, studying my face. I leaned over and kissed her. Better than okay. Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about something. Oh, her eyes sparkled with curiosity. Not here, I said, smiling. Tonight, I have plans. What I didn't tell her was that the ring had been in my jacket pocket for 2 weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. Unlike last time, there would be no grand gestures or public displays. Just the two of us, honest and certain, ready for whatever came next. Sometimes the universe gives you a second chance not at the same thing, but at getting it right with someone who deserves it. I didn't think much about the coffee shop encounter after that day. Life moved forward with its own momentum. Lily and I got engaged on a quiet beach at sunset. Exactly the intimate moment I'd hoped for. She said yes before I'd even finished asking, pulling me up from my knee with tears in her eyes and laughter on her lips. My company expanded to 3 cities. We hired a team of 15 and were being courted by a major tech corporation for acquisition. Lily's design firm won a prestigious industry award. We bought a small house with a garden where we talked about maybe planting tomatoes. Life was full and good in ours. I'd forgotten about Maya entirely until she called. My phone buzzed on a Wednesday evening, a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. Jake. The voice was small, uncertain. It's Maya. I felt Lily glance up from her book across the room. Hey Maya. What's up? She paused, and I could hear traffic in the background, the sound of the city at dusk. I know this is weird. I'm sorry to bother you. Can we talk? In person. Every instinct told me to say no. That chapter was closed. But there was something in her voice, not manipulation or drama, but genuine distress. "Is everything okay?" "No," she said simply. "Nothing is okay. But I understand if you don't want to see me. I just didn't know who else to call." I covered the phone and looked at Lily, explaining the situation in whispers. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Where are you?" I asked Maya. "We met at a quiet park near the waterfront, one of those places where people walk dogs and watch the ferries." Maya was sitting on a bench when I arrived, looking smaller than I remembered, her expensive coat wrapped tight against the evening chill. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down, leaving appropriate distance between us. "What's going on, Maya?" She laughed, but it was hollow. "You know what's funny? I got everything I said I wanted. The MBA from Columbia, the consulting job with a six-figure salary, the apartment in Manhattan. I dated men who looked good on paper, went to parties at penthouses, traveled to Dubai and Singapore for work. That sounds like success," I said neutrally. "It was exhausting," she corrected. "It was lonely and competitive and soul-crushing. I worked 80-hour weeks for partners who saw me as disposable. I went on dates with men who only cared about my resume or my looks. I woke up in luxury hotels in foreign cities and couldn't remember why I was there." She turned to look at me, and her eyes were red-rimmed. "I came back to Seattle thinking it would be better. But it's the same here. Different office, same emptiness. Last week, I turned 30. I spent my birthday alone in my apartment, ordering takeout and watching everyone else's highlight reels on social media. Maya, I saw you that day at the coffee shop and you looked so content. Not just successful but genuinely happy. And I realized I threw that away. I had someone who loved me, who wanted to build a life with me. And I mocked him in front of everyone because I was so convinced that love was a trap and success was the only thing that mattered. We weren't right for each other, I said gently. Not then, anyway. No, she agreed. But it wasn't about you, Jake. It was never about you. You were kind and loyal and you saw a future I was too scared to want. I convinced myself I was too good for you. But the truth was I felt like I wasn't good enough. Like if I settled down, I'd have to stop proving myself. Like if I admitted I wanted simple happiness, I'd be admitting defeat. She wiped at her eyes. I've been in therapy for 6 months. Finally. And I'm starting to understand that I was running from myself, not toward anything real. The career, the ambition, it wasn't wrong to want those things, but I used them as a shield. I made everything a competition I had to win, including my own life. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. I'm not telling you this because I want you back, Maya continued. I know that ship sailed. I saw the way you looked at Lily. That's real. That's what I was too immature to appreciate. Then why are you telling me? Because I needed you to know it wasn't your fault. That proposal, my reaction, it was about my fears, not your worth. And because... She hesitated. Because I wanted to thank you. Thank me. For walking away. For not fighting for someone who didn't know how to be fought for. You deserved better than I could give you then. I hope you found it. I have, I said simply. She nodded, standing up. I'm trying to figure out who I am when I'm not performing success. It's harder than closing million-dollar deals. But I think I'm finally ready to do the work. She managed a real smile. Congratulations on your engagement. Lily's lucky. But I think you know you're lucky too. I do, I agreed. We said goodbye without ceremony. Two people who once mattered to each other finding closure in honesty rather than fantasy. As I walked back to my car, I felt a strange mix of sadness and peace. Maya's success had been hollow because she'd been running from herself, and no amount of achievement can fill that particular void. I went home to Lily, to the life we were building together. Messy and real and chosen every day. That night, as we planned seating arrangements for our wedding, I silently thanked my younger self for having the strength to walk away from someone who couldn't see my value. Sometimes the best thing that can happen is being rejected by the wrong person, because it leaves you free to find the right one. The wedding was small and perfect, held in a botanical garden with 50 people who actually mattered to us. No viral videos, no grand performances. Just honest vows, happy tears, and a celebration of two people choosing each other with clear eyes and full hearts. My best man Marcus gave a speech that had everyone laughing and crying, carefully avoiding any mention of failed proposals while still acknowledging how far I'd come. Lily's maid of honor talked about finding love that feels like coming home. My mother hugged me tight and whispered, "This is how it's supposed to feel." She was right. Standing next to Lily, exchanging rings we designed together, promising to build a life one decision at a time. It didn't feel like taking a leap into uncertainty. It felt like the most natural thing in the world. During our first dance, Lily whispered, "No regrets. Only that I didn't find you sooner." I whispered back. 6 months into marriage, my company was acquired for $8 million. It was surreal, signing papers that represented years of work and growth, watching my bank account change in ways I'd never imagined. But the best moment wasn't the acquisition. It was coming home to tell Lily, finding her in our garden, actually growing those tomatoes we joked about. "We did it," I said, pulling her into a hug. "You did it," she corrected. "I just supported." "That's not true, and you know it." Her belief in me, her steady presence during the stressful negotiations, her ability to remind me why I'd started the company in the first place. Those had been everything. We decided to use some of the money to start a foundation that helped young entrepreneurs from underprivileged backgrounds access technology education. Lily's idea, but one I embraced immediately. Success meant nothing if it only served us. I ran into Maya one more time, 2 years after our park bench conversation. It was at a tech industry event. She'd left consulting and joined a startup focused on sustainable fashion. She looked different again, but this time in a good way. There was a lightness about her that hadn't been there before. "Jake," she approached me with genuine warmth. "I heard about the acquisition. That's incredible. Thanks. I heard you left McKinsey. How's the new venture?" "It's terrifying and exciting, and I'm making 1/3 of my consulting salary," she laughed. "But I love it. I'm actually passionate about what we're building, not just climbing a ladder." We chatted for a few minutes about the industry, about life. She mentioned she was dating someone, a teacher, and there was a softness in her voice when she spoke about him. No grand declarations, just quiet affection. "You seem really happy," I observed, echoing her words from years ago. "I'm getting there," she said honestly. "Turns out happiness isn't a destination you reach. It's a practice you maintain." "Therapy talking," she added with a self-deprecating smile. "Well, it looks good on you." "It looks good on you too, Jake. You're thriving. I'm really glad." She paused, then added, "And I'm really glad I ran into you. Not in a weird way, just, it's nice to see that we both found our paths, even if they weren't the ones we originally imagined." After she left, Lily appeared at my side with 2 glasses of champagne. "Maya." "Yeah, she seems better, happier." "Good," Lily said simply, because that's who she was, generous enough to wish well even to the person who'd hurt me. That night, lying in bed in our hotel room, I thought about the journey from that humiliating proposal to this moment. Every failure, every painful step forward, every moment of doubt had led me here. Maya's rejection hadn't ruined my life, it had redirected it. "What are you thinking about?" Lily asked, turning toward me in the darkness. "How grateful I am," I said, "for everything, even the hard parts, especially the hard parts, maybe." "That's very evolved of you," she teased. "I'm serious. If Maya had said yes that night, I'd have married someone who didn't truly want me. I'd have spent years trying to be enough for someone who was running from herself. Instead, I got to become someone I'm proud of, and I found someone who chooses me every day, who sees me clearly and still wants to build a life together." "I do choose you," Lily said softly. "Every single day." "I know, and I choose you. That's the difference, isn't it? Not the grand gesture or the perfect moment, but the daily choice to show up, to work through the hard stuff, to build something real." 3 years later, we were blessed with twins. A boy and a girl who turned our orderly life into beautiful chaos. I started mentoring young entrepreneurs, sharing not just the business lessons but the personal ones. That rejection is redirection, that failure is information, that your worth isn't determined by anyone's opinion of you. Sometimes, late at night when the babies were finally asleep and Lily and I collapsed on the couch in exhausted contentment, I'd think back to that night in the garden. The humiliation felt like it had happened to someone else, a character in a story I once read. That younger version of me had thought love meant convincing someone to choose you, meant grand gestures and perfect moments. But real love, I'd learned, was quieter. It was Lily bringing me coffee when I was stressed about a product launch. It was me rubbing her feet after a long day. It was both of us taking turns with night feedings, making decisions together, arguing and forgiving and choosing each other again and again. Maya had laughed when I proposed, but the universe had the last laugh, giving me something better than I'd imagined. Not the life I'd planned, but the life I deserved. And on those rare quiet mornings, watching Lily with our children, seeing the life we'd built together through honesty and effort and daily choice, I understood the profound truth. The best revenge isn't showing your ex what they missed. It's being so genuinely happy that you stop thinking about revenge altogether. I'd knelt with a ring once and been humiliated, but I'd stood back up, rebuilt myself, and found someone who met me as an equal. That's the real story, not the rejection, but the resurrection. Not the ending I'd planned, but the beginning I'd earned.